Okay, this one is number 233, Trade, and the subtitle is Gifts for Trading Land with White People. And that's by, I think it's Joan or June. I apologize for that. Quick to See Smith. It's 1992. Oil and mixed media on canvas. And I'm sure everybody here knows about the history of, at least some of the history of Native Americans in the United States. And she again is an American, and the history of how land, at least initially, was procured. We'll call it procured, and not stolen, from the Native Americans by the European immigrants. So this piece, if we just look at it, we can see it's made up of collage. Right, if you look carefully, you can see that we have newspaper clippings, right? Paint, different newspaper clippings, paint, and you can see the major motif of the canoe there in the center. And the canoe, of course, would be an important instrument in terms of getting trade goods from one place to another. And above the painting collage part, of course, is a string of just, for lack of a word, better word, kind of crap. So we have Indian feather headdresses, an Indian princess doll, Atlanta Braves, the Washington Redskins, basically a lot of stuff that uses Native American imagery, cheap tomahawks, uses Native American imagery in a commercial way, right? And in fact, this piece was done. I'm going to skip forward a couple so we can get a better view. All right, so you can see some of the newspaper clippings, the crappy stuff, right? And in fact, about the kind of the goods here above, this is a quote from our artist. She says, "Why won't you consider trading the land we handed over to you for these silly trinkets that so honor us? Sound like a bad deal? Well, that's the deal you gave us." And of course, and if we look at the larger piece, go back, with all the red in particular is a strong color throughout. So of course, red, the dripping nature should be, suggestive of blood and kind of that kind of genocide that occurred. I'll use the word. The painting was made in 1992, which was the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus arriving in the New World. And so this was for the, according to the artist, the quincentenary non-celebration, right? So we can see why 1992 would be of particular importance for a politically minded artist. So this is definitely art as political message. We see that more and more as we are in the 20th century. Not that politics weren't a part of art before, but definitely we have groups who were, oppressed, or groups have been marginalized, more, standing up and creating their own art. We kind of saw that with Faith Ringgold as well. So we can see that we get a sense of a bit of abstract expressionism here, with the overlapping collage and the dripping red paint. It might remind you a bit of de Kooning, maybe. Our artist, grew up on a reservation in Montana. And she was really steeped in the tradition of her ancestors. She grew up on a reservation, but she was educated in Euro-American tradition of art. She went to the Framingham Institute, or Framingham State University in Massachusetts, and we'll hear her talk about that in just a moment. So yeah, I think that's pretty much, I think it's fairly clear what's going on here. So the newspaper clippings, just a little bit about those. They chronicle the conquest of Native Americans by Europeans, and they include references to problems on reservations, poverty, alcoholism, disease, et cetera, et cetera. We've touched a little bit on that when we looked at the hide painting of the sun dance. That was obviously a much earlier piece, but this is a little bit later. And if you know anything about the effects of being isolated on reservations on Native American culture, you'll know it has not been a good thing. Okay, so let's watch our artist speak. Here we go.
As early as I can remember, I've wanted to be an artist. My father would draw little pictures of animals that I would carry in my pockets. Besides reading books, it took me into a place that didn't have violence in it, didn't have hunger, was just the most wonderful place to be. You know, sometimes just doing charcoal drawings just for the sake of just moving my hand and not really thinking about a subject or a topic. And so I make drawings that have seed pods and petroglyphs, things that I've seen in my travels. And it's sort of a meditative process. In high school, I decided that I did, yes, want to go to college and take art. At the end of the year, the professor called me into his office and said, "You can draw better than the men, but I have to tell you, you need to go into another field." Because he said, "You'll never be able to be an artist. Women are not artists."
Nice.
I like to use maps because maps can tell stories. So what I did with this particular map is to erase all European presence. I eliminated every state that has a European name, and I kept only the states that have Native American names, because the whole place was ours until the invasion came, the Great Invasion. Part of what I do in my work is using my work as a platform for my beliefs. And can I tell a story? Can I make it a good story? Can I add some humor to it? Can I get your attention? Those are all things that I try to do with my artwork. It's not always successful, but it's important to speak up when you believe in something so strongly. And I passionately believe in the life that I live. And so I think that my work will probably go on being political in some way.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, whoops, let me click this here. Yeah. Two female artists who have very clear political intent, message intent. I don't know if Faith Ringgold is as political, but she definitely has a point of view that is counter to the so-called traditional mainstream, and executed through her work. And so we're going to see the last one, which is Earth's creation. We'll do that one last.